MusicSchoolPrep.com. Lesson 5. Melodic Intervals. A melodic interval is the horizontal distance between two notes. An interval is named by its quantity and its quality. To measure quantity is simple. Quantity is simply how many letter names are encompassed between two notes. In this interval, C up to an E encompasses three letters, C, D, and E. So this interval's quantity is a third. But if we have this C sharp up to an E, that also encompasses three letter names, C sharp, D, and E, which is also a third. Which brings us to quality. Since the distance between two letter names can vary, quality is a measurement of the size of the interval. Qualities can be one of 5. Major, which is notated by a capital M. Perfect, which is notated by a capital P. Minor, which is notated by a lowercase m. Diminished, which is notated by a lowercase d. Or augmented, which is notated by an uppercase A. Here's how to determine the quality. First, any interval above the tonic will be a perfect or a major interval in a major scale. So we start with a major scale. Minor, diminished, and augmented intervals can be calculated by comparing them to these perfect and major intervals. So this is why we start with the major scale. Now we look at each individual note's intervals to the tonic. As discussed earlier, any interval above the tonic in a major scale will be perfect or major. All of these intervals here are major intervals. Perfect intervals are actually major intervals, but they have special qualities that allow these perfect intervals to remain perfect even when inverted, which we will discuss more in an upcoming lesson. The only intervals that are perfect in a major scale are the 4th and the 5th. So from this C to F is a perfect 4th, and this C to a G is a perfect 5th. Also, octaves are also said to be perfect, since they are the same pitch. Minor intervals are 1/2 step smaller than major intervals. This can be achieved by either lowering the upper note by 1/2 step or by raising the lower note 1/2 step. In this example, the interval between C and E is a major third. We can make this interval a minor third by lowering the E 1/2 step, making it an E flat. Or we can also raise the C 1/2 step to a C sharp. Both of these are minor thirds. Here we have examples of how to compose minor intervals from major intervals in C major. These examples all have the upper note being lowered. Remember that this calculation could also have been done by raising the lower note, all of these lower C's to C sharps. A diminished interval is 1/2 step smaller than minor or perfect intervals. In this example, we have a perfect 5th being changed into a diminished 5th by lowering the upper note by 1/2 step. Again, this can also have been done by raising the lower note C to C sharp. And here is a minor 7th being changed into a diminished 7th. We can also make a major interval diminished. Diminished intervals can also be thought of as being 2/2 steps smaller than a major interval. This progression shows it clearly. From this major 7th, shortened by 1/2 step, gets us to this minor 7th. Then if we shorten it yet again by a 1/2 step, we have our diminished 7th. Again, this can also have been done by raising the lower note C to C sharp, then to C double sharp. And finally, augmented intervals. They are sort of the opposite of diminished intervals. Augmented intervals are 1/2 step larger than perfect or major intervals. This can be achieved by raising the upper note by 1/2 step or by lowering the lower note 1/2 step. In this example, we have a major 6th being changed into an augmented 6th by raising the upper note by 1/2 step. Again, this could have been done by lowering the lower note C to C flat. And here is a perfect 5th being changed into an augmented 5th by raising the upper note 1/2 step. Again, this could also have been done by lowering the lower note C to C flat.